If you're watching this video, you're interested in starting your own business, and there are 3 types of businesses you absolutely have to stay well clear of, and I'm going to break them down for you in this video, along with the one business I've been using over the past few years to make literally millions of dollars. Firstly, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is John Pemberthy, and I've been teaching marketing education tips on this channel for the past few years. And the topic that I want to break down for you today is a slightly broader topic. In fact, a much broader topic. I'm not going to be teaching you one marketing strategy or one sales strategy or one business strategy. I actually want to share with you some of the businesses that you should not get involved in and you really should avoid, because they're not going to be profitable. They're going to be way too much work for very little gain, or they're just way too crowded at this point for it to even be a viable option. So I want to save you a bunch of time if you are in a position where you are liking the idea of starting your own business and you're wondering which avenue you could go down. In fact, the third one that I'm going to share with you in just a moment was actually my first ever business that I started, and I'm not doing it now. It wasn't a great idea. I'll share with you what that one was in just a moment. So let's kick straight off with the first type of business that I do not recommend you get into, and that is starting some kind of hospitality business, whether that is a restaurant or a cafe. And I actually had aspirations for this when I was younger. When I left school, I went and studied catering for a few years. Many of you, if you've been following me for a while, you will know that. And I got into that because I had this entrepreneurial flair. I didn't know how I was going to channel that or where I was going to channel that, and I enjoyed cooking. So I figured, well, I'll go down that route, and maybe at some point I'll open up a restaurant or I'll open up some kind of cafe somewhere. It dawned on me very quickly, however, that as a 15, 16-year-old young lad going into the bank asking for a £100,000 loan to start this restaurant, probably not realistic. So that never happened, and looking back now, I'm very pleased it didn't. The problem with the restaurant industry and the cafe industry is really, if you're going into it, you need to go into it with one of 2 mindsets, and only one of them is viable as a long-term revenue generating model, but it's very difficult. The other one is you have to be a certain type of person. Allow me to explain. The first option is that you go in and you start a restaurant or you start a cafe with the long-term view of franchising that, or at least moving to having multiple locations. If you only open up one restaurant, one location, and that is your entire plan, the margins are so slim. You have the building to look after, the lease itself, so the rent on that lease, you've got the staffing, you've got the food, you've got all the bills, you've got the crockery, you've got everything that is needed to run that restaurant, and you can only have so many customers in that restaurant at any one time. So your income is capped and your expenses are very, very high, meaning your margins are very, very small. So the only real way to make it work is if you're planning on expanding, so that you know that you've got one location with very small margins, but you're going to now have multiple locations. So that multiple of small margins actually creates pretty high margin. There's a lot of work that's going to come with that. Or of course, franchising. That's the other way of going about it. You can go down that route, might be more viable, but a heck ton of work. I wouldn't recommend it. The second mindset, or the second direction you could go in, is if you are purely doing it as a hobby business. And if that is the case, more power to you. Go and open up that restaurant, you do you. But those people are opening that restaurant or opening that cafe not to make money, not to expand business, not to be a glamorous entrepreneur. They are just opening that restaurant because they love food or they love hospitality. They don't care about making money. They just want to open up one shop. So it's not a viable option if you're wanting to make a ton of money and grow big businesses. That would just be a hobby business at that point. Actually, one more thing on that before we move on is another issue with this is you are bound to one location. So you're going to spend a bunch of money picking a site, arranging whether to buy or lease that building, kitting out the place, getting a big loan to be able to do that from the bank, and then just fingers crossed hope that the right footfall is coming outside the restaurant, or that you're able to attract people to your location. You can't easily just up and move somewhere else if it doesn't work. So another reason why it's a tough model. The second business is anything with low margins, and this can even relate to online businesses. So we talked about low margins in relation to a restaurant, physical location, but now we can even talk about selling physical products on the internet, right? The internet is booming. The digital age is well and truly upon us, and it is growing and it is scaling. But even if we look at these models where we're selling products, physical products on a Shopify store or on Amazon, because they're physical products, because there are hard costs involved, to actually make the item, then to ship the item to the customer, it makes the margins incredibly small. I actually got started with this as one of my earlier businesses when I was very, very young. I started an eBay business and I was buying and selling on eBay and skimming off the profit. Then I started buying stuff in wholesale, 100, 200, 300 items at a time to get a discount on those items, then sell those on eBay as well. And I was making a little bit of money. I mean, nothing to write home about. I was making a little bit, but I remember the moment where I completely pivoted to selling digital products online because I saw the opportunity there. Selling a digital product has no hard costs, no production costs, no shipping costs, and I suddenly looked at the $1 I was making on every item sold and realized that there are better ways, and I started moving away from that model from that moment in time, and it's still true today. There are lots of people that talk about starting a business that sells physical products and they can make it sound very attractive, and I do have friends that have made it work and do still make it work, but I just don't think it's anywhere close to the most viable option to start a business, particularly online. And the third one is actually the one that I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I was tempted by in my early years. Now I'm talking right back in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. The first ever exploring of being an entrepreneur that I did was washing cars around my neighborhood, right? It's a common thing. Many of you may have done that when you were younger as well. I wasn't old enough to get a job, and so I would go around to the neighbors and I would, offer to wash their cars. I even hand drew and hand wrote some leaflets, and I would hand those out around the neighborhood, and I had a few regulars that I'd go wash their car. That gave me the idea. What if I went and found a location? What if I found a shopping center or a supermarket where I could purchase or lease a portion of their car park, and I could set up a car wash? And I remember back then thinking I would be absolutely loaded if I did that. And again, it didn't work out, and I'm pleased it didn't, because looking back now, businesses like that, and you can look at the setup of that type of business and you can relate it to many others. A business like that has, again, a physical location like a restaurant is and loads of hard costs involved and very low margins. Very difficult to make that work. We're looking at when I go to get my car washed, it's going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take 20 minutes inside and out. I'm going to pay maybe 10, 15 pounds for that to happen. So that location can get through 3 cars an hour. Now you factor in the water, the staffing, the costs for the location. Again, your margins are so incredibly slim, and you've got to be out there in the cold. So it's semi-seasonal as well. You can't be open if it's snowing or things like this. So margins are way too small, way too difficult to get started. Not a business that I ended up getting involved in, and I'm pleased I didn't. I did my little neighborhood washing, but actually finding a location did not get that far. So hopefully that's given you some ideas for the types of businesses that maybe you shouldn't get involved in. Now let me leave you with the one that has absolutely exploded for me. And again, I've given you a snippet of the types of things that I've tried or explored in my time. Selling digital products online, specifically educational products, is a booming market right now, and I've made millions over the past few years. In fact, we're just closing in on having generated $20 million in online sales. So when I say education, that is selling your knowledge. If you've ever had someone ask your opinion on a certain topic, if you have friends and family that usually gravitate to you to talk about a certain topic, maybe it's relationship advice, maybe it's how you train your dog, maybe it's fitness because you're in shape and you've figured that stuff out. If you have people coming to you for knowledge, there's a very good chance you could package that knowledge up, sell it in the form of an online training program or a coaching program, and you could make some amazing money from that. Again, it's a booming market, very little costs, very high profit, and it's been a business that I have absolutely loved. If you want to learn more about this particular business model, because I do it and have done it very successfully for a long period of time, I can teach you the ins and outs of how this works. There's a training that I've put together for you. You can check it out in the description box and the top comment below. It's completely free. You can register to watch that training, and I'll walk you through exactly what it is that I do, how I do it, how I package up these products, and how I get eyeballs on those information products to actually generate customers and clients. So do check that out if that would be helpful. And that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell notification, and if you want more content like this, there's another video right here of mine that you can check out that I think you'll like. I'll see you in a future video.